4 p.m. So because of the weather, we are meeting remotely again this evening. We did this once before earlier this year, so we have some experience, and hopefully this will go even better than the first time. Ms. Melissa Olson is assisting us today with the board support. With that, roll call, please, Melissa.
Director Bankus,
Here.
Director Daniels,
Present.
Director Jorgensen,
Here.
Director Loma,
Here.
Director Malpaca,
Here.
Director Nelson.
Here.
Director Ott.
Okay, we have full attendance here with all the board members participating remotely today. Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Director Daniels, can you please make the motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes, thank you. I move that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Director Bankus,
Aye.
Director Daniels.
Aye.
So I'm not going to go in order because I don't have the screen, so forgive me. Director Jorgensen,
Aye.
Director Malpaca,
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Ott. Director Ott.
Aye.
Did I miss anyone?
Director Loma.
Director Loma.
How could you miss me?
I thought I said you. Thank you.
Did you say aye, Loma? Yes. Okay, the ayes have it. The agenda has been adopted as presented. We do have executive session today. It's a short one. I expect it to take around 15 minutes or so. Director Loma, can you please make the motion to enter into executive session?
I move that the Board of Education convenes into executive session to discuss personnel, PR, or per CRS 24-6-402, 4F, particular matter, superintendent's contract.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Director Bankus,
Aye.
Director Daniels,
Aye.
Director Jorgensen,
Aye.
Director Loma,
Aye.
Director Malpaca,
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Director,
Nelson.
Aye.
Director Ott.
the ayes have it. We will enter into executive session for roughly 15 minutes or so. And when we are done with executive session, I will let Ms. Olson know, and we can reconvene for the rest of our special meeting at approximately 4:15 or 4:20 p.m. Kim. Thank you. So let's start again. Welcome. We are reconvening in public session, and there is no need to modify the agenda after our executive session. For those of you who did not see the start of the meeting, the agenda was approved as presented. We have one non-action item on our agenda, special meeting agenda today, and that's the proposed school year calendar 2023-24. This item is new, Superintendent Gall. What information do you have for our review? And I'll turn it over to you, Superintendent Gall.
Thank you, Dr. Malpaca, the board, and all the little rectangles and circles that I see. If I could get Phoebe Bailey to come in and kind of explain where we were with the process with the calendar committee and then joint council, which brings us to the special meeting today. I believe there was a document hung. Then if Phoebe needs to share that, I'll let her take that over.
Thank you, Mr. Gall. Good evening, or good President Malpaca and board directors. We are coming to you with the district calendar that the calendar committee worked on, or better yet, developed starting September 12th up to January 6th. And I will share the calendar. We worked in order to bring you a calendar on time, but we were unable to agree to recommend the calendar to you in joint council. So the calendar that the calendar committee agreed to bring forward is being shared with you right now. The dates for additional professional development, and that is what this calendar is all about. There was a request from the Department of Academics, Leadership and Learning, ALL, to add an additional 2 professional development days. Those 2 professional development days, one day is in the first semester on August 10th. And then the second day for professional development is January 5th. So that is outside of the master agreement, which teachers have a contract of 185 days. This calendar is 187 days. Because of the addition of the 2 professional development days, we went to joint council to get their recommendation to move the calendar forward to the Board of Education so that you all would review and approve to accept the calendar. But during that particular point in time, it was brought forward that since the contract states within the master agreement that teachers have a 185-day calendar, not a 187-day calendar, it was requested that we create a MOU in order to move the calendar forward. And that's where we left it.
You're on mute,
So-
Director Malpacum.
Sorry about that. Do you want to stop sharing the screen, Phoebe?
Yes, excuse me.
Is there anything else that you need to add at this point, Phoebe? Chief Bailey?
No.
Okay. I see Director Loma's hand first. Director Loma.
Is that, Phoebe, is that the same calendar that you sent in the email that we have, the PDF? Are they identical or they're different?
Well, the calendar that you have in the PDF, Trudy just texted me. She said, Phoebe, that's not the right calendar. But the dates, when we say August 10th and
Yeah.
January 5th, those are the 2 days. But I think what she's telling me is that one of the professional development days is a split data collaboration day, half for elementary and then the other half for professional development day.
Yeah, I
So,
see that. Okay.
right.
I just want to make sure we're seeing the same thing. Thank
Right.
you.
What's hanging is correct. I pulled down the wrong calendar to share. Thank you for that,
Okay.
Kate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Director Jurgensen.
So you mentioned the master agreement and saying that we have to have 185 days. I was looking through the additional days piece in section 4, Article 14, and it says in section A there, the additional days, we've already agreed with the union about adding 2 more days. And in fact, the second, I mean, I'll just read it here for all of us to have context. It was the intent of the district and the association that 5 additional contract days be added to the district calendar. Due to economic circumstances, only 3 of these days were added. The fulfillment of these additional contract days remains a high priority. That's 5 minus 3 is 2. Both parties agreed to fulfill this commitment. That's both the board and the union, as soon as economically viable and practicable. The addition of any such teacher contract day to the teacher contract shall require approval by the Board of Education. So right here, we've already baked this into the master agreement that we are going to add 2 days when economically viable. We are going to pay them. It's not unpaid. So we're going to pay for effective professional development. But this is the green one. It's the fresh one. Page 74, if you're looking at it. Article 14, Section A. We are already ready to add 2 days to the calendar when economically viable. Superintendent Gall and his team have found that that's true for this case for the next year. It's already baked in. I don't know what the problem is. If we want to have an emergency meeting with joint council, you can. But this is per board approval. We're ready to go with 2 more days and we're ready to pay them. We don't need an MOU. We don't need negotiations. We're ready to go. So I think we should just discuss the calendar and make it happen.
Okay, thank you, Director Jorgensen. Chief Bailey, do you have a response for that at the time, or is that something that you have talked with joint counsel or legal as a feedback on that?
Yes, Director Jorgensen is correct. That language is already in the master agreement. As you know, the 2 additional days was going to be one of our issues, but working with the calendar committee, we wanted to keep that language completely separate from the master agreement, but you are correct.
Okay, Director Loma. Unmute yourself, Director Loma.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, we don't have to wait for joint council approval. They recommend, but ultimately we approve. And there's nothing says that we have to go with their recommendation. Again, I go back to my premise that we are a driven, board-driven district. That's our governance. And so if in fact they recommend, and they can't, we love recommendations, but we were elected by the public, and we have a public who is at risk because they have to plan their lives around our schedule. You know, summer, all the stuff that goes involved in being a parent. So I don't think the joint council or some on the joint council was considering parents. The sooner we get this done, the better. And if joint council doesn't like this, well, you know, they just have to take it in the chin and say, well, we didn't like your recommendation. And if the board sees that it's important, I do, to get this out, get it done. And since it's already budgeted, we're not telling them to do for free. They're being paid. And I'm sure they'll all appreciate the extra 2 days pay. It doesn't make sense why they would even want to put a roadblock. And the roadblock's been here for about a month now. So I think we should move this to action and just take care of it.
Okay. Thank you, Director Loma. Any further comments or questions from the board director? Director Art.
Thank you. So does this, I had understand that maybe some of the concerns were also about 0-step concerns and things like that, and how we pay teachers, et cetera. But whether or not it does this extra 2 days have to go through IBB, Phoebe? I mean, or can we just by default say, nope, it's 2 extra days and this is the way it is, everybody. I understand, Jason. Director Jorgensen, I also am looking at that, but I do like to respect our employees and the process that we agreed to work with. And so joint council, I understand your point, Director Loma, and it's a good one. Yes, it says recommend, it doesn't say require, but I do want to just note, you know, we're dealing with funding, and and this does have ties to the IBB process. I don't want to shoot us in the foot before we get started with that. Thanks.
It is, as I shared with Mr. Gall. The calendar committee is totally separate. We have nothing to do with, the master agreement and, interest-based bargaining. The only thing, our only concern was we knew that the contract is 185 days. So therefore, our charge was to add additional professional development days. I mean, it was a very invigorating conversation with representatives on the committee from all of the employee groups. And we did come to consensus. We as a committee, calendar committee, voted to, try to figure out how to include the additional 2 days as requested by the ALL department and, try to meet the needs of teachers relative to splitting some of the days for data analysis, data collaboration. So when we talk about what's in the master agreement, that did not come before us. We did not consider that. We just came forward with adding 2 additional days to the calendar. And then that's when we got to joint council and they said that we needed to look at the 2 additional, the MOU for 2 additional days.
Go ahead, Superintendent Gall.
Yeah, I just want to back up Chief Bailey here that the direction that the staff gave her was to keep the calendar committee on timeline with calendar committee and to try not to conflate other issues that may or may not be going on behind the scenes or in the future with IBB. In regards to step 0 and step 1, that has been a grieved process by both sides that has an arbitration hearing set for August of 23. And so it didn't seem that the calendar should be in some way connected to a grievance that would not be resolved until August of 23 through arbitration. There is certainly an opportunity for us to resolve that step 0, step 1 grievance through IBB, but yet again, the IBB process is not likely to conclude until probably April or May. And so it was at the direction of President Malpacum that said we need to ensure that the calendar is ready. So I gave the direction to Chief Bailey in December or January to try to bring the calendar committee's recommendation to resolution through an MOU, as that is how we would normally handle an item for the several month period prior to IBB going forward, such that we can get the dates out. The calendar that the team has put together is consistent regardless of this decision for families. The only members that are impacted are by staff on what would be those first return days in August or coming back from Christmas break. But Chief Bailey and the calendar committee were asked to try to not conflate competing issues and just stay with a process of which the board would have expected to see a calendar as recommended by the Joint Council on January 20th, of which has not come forward, hence why we're here today.
So thank you. Thank you for that feedback. So Chief Bailey, that just for our understanding and the public's understanding, the calendar committee is comprised of all 3 employee groups, right?
That is correct. 25 committee members, and we may not all show up at the same time for every meeting.
Okay, so this calendar that is there in front of the board today and the public, the calendar committee approved it or gave the thumbs up to it as it is being structured with the 2 additional days.
That is correct.
Okay, and then after the calendar committee sent it to joint council, and again, I'm looking at the master agreement here too, and it says on page 21, joint council shall recommend the school calendar next year to the board for consideration, and if possible, the board shall establish the calendar by January 20th. So we are well past that January 20th deadline. We are almost, and usually this comes in end of January. We are now into middle of February, and end of February by the time the board finally adopts this calendar. And it's their duty and responsibility to recommend a calendar to the board. And if it's held up out there and they are not going to make a formal recommendation, we still have to, and I've had the same feedback. I've had 2 or 3, I think one email came to the entire board asking when the calendar is going to be approved. And then I had 2 other people reach out to me personally asking about the calendar because they base their summer vacations and winter break and all those things. So it just, this was mentioned by Director Jurgensen and listening to Director Art too, if it's possible between now and next Wednesday, if you can have if a joint council meeting could be called and this could be taken back, this calendar could be taken back to the joint council and they can recommend or make a suggestion about this calendar itself, not conflating anything else that's going on outside of this calendar, but just the calendar alone. If they can make a recommendation and it can come in front of the board by next Wednesday, that would be the recommendation. But if they do not want to make a recommendation, we as a school board, and this is the will of the board, we have a responsibility, a statutory responsibility to still approve a calendar in a timely fashion and not hold up the rest of our community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can you take it back if possible to the joint council and ask them if they can recommend this calendar and bring it back in a week from now? Is the board good with that? By a show of thumbs. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thumbs, and Director Art and Director Daniels did not give a thumbs up. So, and then it comes back to the board, hopefully with a recommendation from the joint council that this is good to proceed. If we don't get a recommendation from joint council, then it's up to the board at the time to either take on our responsibility and approve this calendar in a timely manner. Okay, anything else to discuss on this subject matter at this time? Director Jurgensen.
Just comparing our calendar with other neighboring districts. I know we've got some people that teach in D11, but have their kids in a neighboring district, maybe because of just proximity to their home or their spouse's job or whatever it might be. I know that your committee has done a great job in getting all the feedback and squeezing in what we want to squeeze in. Chief Bailey, was that a consideration that you guys took into account? Was, D20 schedule versus D11s versus D49s and just how they take their break?
We always try to do that, but our dilemma is that Christmas, the actual holiday, floats through the calendar, and
Right.
we want to always make sure that we have finished our school year before Memorial Day break, because then that becomes another, vacation nightmare or enrichment programs for families. So that's why instead of a complete 2-week break, we need to get those 2 additional days in. And we also try to balance how many days our staff and our kids are in school by semester. And we're a little out of balance. We're in school less days first semester than we are second semester. And that second semester gets to be a tough, long run. So we took all of those things into account.
Mm-hmm.
Did not want to touch the Thanksgiving break.
Which I'm pretty sure all of us appreciate that now that change has been made.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To just add to what Director Jurgensen said, I did compare the surrounding district calendar, at least the District 20, and they already have a calendar out for next year that is out to the community, and we are behind on approving our calendar. they start a couple of days earlier than we do, Director Jurgensen. So they come out of the summer break even by August 4th or 5th. I'll have to look at the calendar. And then they go 2 or 3 days past Memorial Day. We try to cut ours. We only have 1 day after Memorial Day, which is a teacher work day for middle school and high school. If our employee groups themselves have looked at the various options and they figured out this was the best option and this is the recommendation that's coming from the calendar committee, that's what we are listening to our employee groups out there. Dr. Ott.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, the reason I didn't give a thumbs up to sending it back to joint council was just very language specific. You said this calendar, I believe. And if, take it, make a recommendation for this calendar, but if joint council has a better option that they all agree on, I personally don't feel opposed to that. And I'm happy to see the best calendar that everyone can collaborate on. So I'm all for it going to joint council and coming back to the board. Thanks.
Great. This is the calendar that came out of the calendar committee and it's going to joint council. If joint council has a better recommendation with 187 days, we've talked about the importance of professional development days for our staff, that this is high priority considering all the new programs that we have, whether it's Power School, curriculum with Eureka Math, and then with the Best First Instruction, Renaissance Star, all these various things. We want to ensure our staff is adequately prepared for that first day of instruction when our students come back from the summer break. And that's what this adding those 2 professional days is going to do. And as it has been mentioned, we are going to fully pay our staff for those 2 additional days. So, but if joint council has a better recommendation on the calendar that they want to bring forth to the board next week, certainly bring that back, Chief Bailey. Director Loma.
I just want to point out, this is where when you see the conflict between individuals who are more concerned with the adults in our district than the children that we serve. And this is a classic conflict, and I'm just amazed that people would do that. We're trying to improve our professionals. I don't even think there should be a discussion or argument, but it's kind of it's telltale sign to me. And so I hope they would begin to put the priority where it belongs. It's not on the master agreement, it's on the children. And if they put the children where they belong, I think the master agreement would help us better than it does now. It seems to be at conflict with our kids, and that's disturbing.
Okay, thank you, Director Loma. Go ahead, Superintendent Gall.
I just want to add to the need for the professional development. The fact that the master agreement originally had 187 days in it and a clause to actually build back towards it was a recognition that we should continue to invest in our instruction and our teachers and our school leaders. We have been a mostly cascading professional development for this first year of my superintendency, and we have recognized a need to be able to touch and reach more individuals faster, particularly on mass shifts and opportunities like Power School, like Star Renaissance as an interim assessment, like the curriculum that change that we made with Eureka Squared. None of these 2 additional professional development days are built to take away the opportunities for teachers to be in their classrooms and their buildings. It's just to give them the time to grapple with the changes that the district has made and not have that be a conflict of what they're trying to get done in their classroom. We still have a very low understanding of the tools that the district has made decisions and allocated resources against, which means we're really not getting the bang for the buck of the dollars that we have aligned against it. So we felt very strongly, so strongly that we thought that this was a negotiable item on adding PD days to the calendar. The fact that the master agreement already says that 187 is a goal to get to means that I think we're just at a level of semantics now, which I thought was going to be overcome through the MOU conversation through joint council, but we are still here now on February 15th with only the opportunity of a calendar to approve a February 22nd, which will be a month and 2 days late. So we will continue to abide by the opportunity to be as collaborative possible, but the urgency is real and we can no longer be delayed for intentional reasons. And we have to continue to get the work done, not just for the families that want to plan vacations, but to direct Loma's point, to ensure that our students are getting the benefits of those hundreds of millions of dollars that we program against their success every year.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Gall. I think we had a healthy discussion on this, so we will send it back to the joint council and hopefully we have a recommendation next week. It's coming back as an action item next week in any case. Okay, thank you. Seeing no further hands up on this topic, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Melissa.
Director Bankus,
Aye.
Director Daniels,
Aye.
Director Jorgensen, Director Jorgensen,
He must have stepped away.
Director Loma,
Aye.
Director Malpacum,
Aye.
Director Nelson. Aye. Director Ott.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The special meeting is adjourned officially at 5:18 p.m.